So I know the title on the thumbnail is going to freak some people out. But today I want to do my very first crossover video. Not my very first, but very first as far as Marvel and Naruto, because this is going to be completely left field. So yeah, Madara versus the X-Men. I don't know if y'all are aware, but I'm a huge X-Men fan. Have been ever since I was a little kid. Both the movies and the cartoons, and a decent amount of the comics. And with me, as y'all might be surprised to see another X-Men fan, Daigo, you're an X-Men fan, right?
Hello, yes, I am a professional X-Men scaler as well, so this is going to be very easy.
I know this is like a really left field as far as like the opponent that we pit the X-Men up, but I was like, you know what? I don't know why I just thought about it, but like, how would the X-Men fare against Madara Uchiha? I feel like this is a good opponent because Madara is like an Apocalypse level villain. Like literally the movie version of Apocalypse is like that big. So yeah, I just thought it'd be a good opponent for him. What do you think, Daigo? You think it'd be a good fight?
Yeah, I think your comparison is very precise when it comes to things like the power level. It was funny because I grew up watching the Evolution cartoon, and Magneto, there's a point of the story where he tossed some meteors, which are actually satellites, on Apocalypse, and Madara tossed meteors in the Naruto series, so there's that parallel, which I kind of enjoy.
Yeah. So going on to the versions, like speaking of like the version that we're going to be using, so I like I said earlier, I have read, some of the comics, a decent bit. But I gotta be honest with you though, and Daigo's kind of the same, way with me. We kind of, more or less, are more familiar with the movies and the cartoon versions of it than we are the comics. So just to make it simple, we're gonna be using the movie adaptation of the X-Men team, with the exception of a couple of scenarios in this video. We'll get to that later. But for the most part, we're gonna be using the X-Men that we see in the film. So. And specifically, the X-Men team are going to consist of, the usual people that you might see: Professor X, Scott, Jean Grey, Wolverine, Nightcrawler, Storm, Quicksilver, Iceman, Kitty Pryde, yeah, and then Rogue, yeah, like you said. And then we're going to include two others because they were technically on the X-Men team when they first started, which would be Magneto and Mystique. Yes, that might be a little bit of left field conclusion or inclusion for them, but I think it's just fair because it's OG, it's Magneto and it's Mystique. I mean, come on. So yeah, it's just the movie adaptations of them, and again, every movie of them. We're not just like 1 through 3. We're gonna include feats from all the movies that they featured in. Young or old, doesn't matter, just to kind of get it out of the way. So again, versus two separate Madaras, Edo Madara and Alive Madara when he got brought back with the Rene Rebirth. We did think about maybe using like Valiant Madara, but I did like that to be too chaotic, and with the Nine Tails, it kind of just kind of throws it out the window. So yeah, and so just Edo and Alive post Rene Rebirth. Daigo, what do you think of the matchup? Do you think that's fair?
Fairness is something that can fluctuate depending on who you ask. I'm not sure. We'll see.
Yeah, so the fairness as far as like who these X-Men have to fight. Like I said, it's Madara is like an Apocalypse level kind of villain.
I mean, yeah, he definitely be. If he was a mutant, he would be an Omega threat.
Yeah,
for sure.
So yeah, that's pretty much what we're gonna do. So okay, so Edo versus the X-Men. Obviously, like we're gonna assume that the X-Men have like had practice as far as their teamwork is concerned. Like we're gonna assume that they have like they're not just going into this fight never having like worked with each other before. Just to kind of again give some big fairness to the X-Men here. Because I do think like when it comes to certain villains, I think they are pretty good at working as a team. Like personally, their abilities are crazy. Their individual abilities are crazy, and they do it in a way that they complement each other. For instance, Jean Grey and Professor X are, when it comes to a fight like this, might be the heavy hitters in this fight because of how strong they are in as far as telepathy. And I don't know, like you have to like kind of roll with the punches with this on this one, guys, because Genjutsu and mind control. It can kind of be, they can kind of go inside, Edo's a little bit different, but you can almost kind of treat someone like reading your mind almost kind of like genjutsu in this fight, even though it's like it'd be kind of similar to Ino's, mind control jutsu or mind transfer jutsu, which was able to control Obito for a second. He did kind of shrug it off eventually, but when you have two people who can use telepathy and who are both extremely good at it, Madara might be trapped in some mind control for a second, and I feel like that might be like the biggest thing for this team, because if he's being controlled for even a little bit, either Cyclops or Storm can rush in and like either one shot him with some lightning or shoot him with Cyclops' laser beams. According to Jean in the first movie, she kind of like, Logan kind of joked about Cyclops being like a non-threat, and Jean kind of replied like, yeah, here's the thing though, if Cyclops were to open his eyes without his visor, he could punch a hole through a mountain. So whether that's a hyperbole or not, it's safe to say that like Cyclops could do some serious damage with him if he was like going full power. Storm probably the same thing with a huge bolt of lightning. We've got that. I'm in rambling. Daigo, what you got?
Yeah, I'm not sure if that type of power would be able to damage Madara too extensively. I mean, we know exactly if Jean was just eyeballing Cyclops' powers there, but if she wasn't, though, like, Madara can cut through mountains kind of casually, which is something we see him doing several times, actually, in the story. And the movie version of the characters, the main problem that I see for them is that, sure, maybe you can argue that Madara can be mind-controlled by Professor X or Jean, even though we know exactly how the mechanics of that would work with somebody that has chakra. Maybe he could awaken himself out of it, like in Jutsu. But then again, we just don't know how that would function because the two power systems are very different. But in the movies, most of the X-Men characters, they move at the speed of a regular person. Well, I mean, an athletic regular person, but still like a human being. Madara, on the other hand, moves at hypersonic speeds, lowballing almost, because he reacts to people like KCM2 Naruto very casually, and we see how fast he can move if compared to the Raikage. The Raikage was able to dodge a Madarasu, a jutsu that is faster than lightning itself. It's difficult for regular moving people to compete against someone of that speed. You can even argue that if Professor X and Jean Grey try to control Madara with their mind control, they wouldn't even be able to look at Madara to pinpoint his location because it would just be too fast for them to follow. And that's why I think Quicksilver has probably the best chance of doing anything useful against Madara in this situation, because he's the one that can actually move at very high speeds, as we see in the movies time and time again. Because when Quicksilver is moving at that speed, nobody else is even reacting to what he is doing. Like they're just completely unaware of what's going on when he is doing all those crazy things, and time kind of stops for them. And that's the main problem I see with the X-Men here.
Yeah, and so like if we're treating like Madara as like Apocalypse kind of level, and I'm not saying like Madara is and Apocalypse are like on par with each other. I'm just using it as a reference because like Daigo mentioned, every time Quicksilver is on the field, usually people can't really react to him. That he's moving way too fast, and even Apocalypse can't. He was like, how many hits did he get on Apocalypse before he could get used to Quicksilver's speed? It took him a minute, to get used to how fast Quicksilver was moving. The way I see it maybe playing out is that Quicksilver might actually be the one carrying this fight, literally. Like he might be having to, what I could see him doing is carrying a couple individuals like Scott or Storm, keeping them out of harm's way, because as far as the offensive power, they are kind of like the big like heavy hitters. Magneto is kind of too, but I feel like Magneto's, as far as defense, he could probably take care of himself, because he could fly for one thing. So I don't know if he's as quick as, to avoid certain attacks. And we're not counting Susanoo, obviously. It was like right now we're just like excluding the Susanoo because yes, if he really wanted to, he could probably just whip out the Susanoo and maybe it's game over. But if we're excluding the Susanoo for a second, then Quicksilver would be the one that like gets everyone out of harm's way. What I said to Daigo earlier is that like if we're taking Storm's feet in the second movie, they were being chased by these jets and whatnot, and Storm just literally made I don't know how many tornadoes in a split second, like it was nothing. And so that might hinder Madara's mobility a little bit. But, if he really wanted to, you get to resort to, using the perfect Susanoo and just fly out of there. It'd just be a case of Quicksilver kind of playing defense, everybody keeping them out of harm's way, or getting them into a spot where they could, like, shoot Madara from a distance, and just kind of keep Madara on his toes, so to speak. When it goes to Edo Madara, this particular feat that I'm about to bring up wouldn't work. But I did mention to Daigo a couple days ago when we were discussing that, the idea first is like I thought Rogue might be a big help, And I think she might when it comes to alive Madara, but her ability to, touch people and kind of, render them slightly paralyzed doesn't really work with Madara, the Edo Madara, because he's kind of like, he doesn't have senses, he doesn't have feeling, and he doesn't have blood. So I don't really know if Rogue's touching ability, like touching absorbing ability, would really work on Edo Madara. Alive Madara, I could see it being a better case because, again, he's alive, he's got his senses back, and he has Sage Jutsu that she could absorb, but the only problem is getting in close to Sage Madara is really tough, even with Quicksilver carrying her. And so that's like the catch-22 is that when it comes to Edo Madara, I feel like Quicksilver is, quick enough to carry the team members and get them in the best possible position for them to land their abilities on them. But with Sage, with Sage Madara, it's a little bit different because it's got the opposite effect where, like, yeah, he's a little more vulnerable, but he's also a lot quicker now because of his senses, and he's got limbo, and so I don't know, it's tough. Even if they're working together, I said, like, they would have to pull out all the stops for them to. I said the telepathic abilities, but Professor X and Jean, Quicksilver literally carrying all the members and getting them in the best position they can. Magneto maybe playing defense for everybody, setting up magnetic fields to shield them from any kind of oncoming attacks. And then you got the melee fighters kind of rendered useless a little bit. I'm not gonna lie to you, like Wolverine.
I think of this, Madara could create 25 Wood Claws Edo version to use Susato against the team, which would be very difficult for them to deal with. And, I mean, even if Storm creates 10, 20, 100 tornadoes, is it really going to damage Madara in a substantial way? I mean, I don't think so. He can unsheath his Susanoo sword and cut from mountaintops miles away. I think he can probably take care of that. And sure, Quicksilver may try to take people to a safe position, but I think Madara can probably react to Quicksilver if he's able to react to someone like KCM2 and Naruto kind of casually.
Yeah.
And there's also the Genjutsu question, because X-Men, they don't have chakra, so maybe Genjutsu wouldn't work on them because it's affecting people's chakra network. But we see Genjutsu working on people that are not ninjas and that probably don't have any chakra, like that lady Itachi put a Genjutsu on so that Jiraiya will be lured out of Naruto's hotel room.
Mm-hmm.
So if Genjutsu works on the X-Men, I don't really see them having any defense against it. Maybe Professor X and Jean could try and awaken them out of it by entering their minds and say, wake up, you're being controlled, whatever. It's just really wonky to think about that, but I still think they don't really have much of an answer to Madara. Especially because he's Edo Tensei too, so in the Edo Tensei version, you have to seal him to defeat him.
Yeah.
Would they be able to seal him somehow? I'm not sure. I don't remember any abilities that, so I don't think like that.
Yeah, I don't think they'd be able to. Maybe the best chance they could make is maybe Nito kind of puts a barrier. I don't really. Yeah, there's nothing I can think of they'd be able to actually seal him indefinitely. So, yeah. So, and that's not even really mentioning the 2 meteors that you could just drop on them if you really wanted to. And I think, in all seriousness, if we take that Magneto that we saw in Apocalypse, granted we would have to
block it.
Yeah,
and block it somehow.
Yeah,
too much overwhelming power thrown against them.
Yeah. So I think for the most part, either whether it's Edo or Alive with Sage Mode, I think it's still, because again, Madara still has, even with Alive, he still has what clones you can use, plus Sage Mode, plus Limbo, and
how they're gonna see Limbo. That's the main question. Nobody can sense Limbo even in the Naruto universe. Only people that have the Rinnegan or Sage of Six Paths Senjutsu are able to sense it or see it. And as far as I know, the X-Men will have that.
Yeah,
yeah. And if the Limbo clones are punching tail beasts and one-shotting them, I'm pretty sure they would be able to do the same thing to an X-Men.
Yeah,
they don't seem to be more durable than a tail beast, I guess.
Yeah. So I mean, so for most part, I think that Edo Madara and Alive Madara versus the X-Men, for the most part, yeah, Madara wins, hands down. The best chance in that regard is if Jean Grey somehow loses control and the Dark Phoenix is awoken. Depending on how far they would have gotten with this Madara by this point, it's maybe likely that if we're taking movie Dark Phoenix into account, whether it's The Last Stand or the Dark Phoenix version of the movie, depending on if they got far enough to where Madara is kind of at least, slightly fatigued or whatever, I think there's a chance, but I don't know. That's a 50-50. But if we're using the comic book version of Dark Phoenix, then yes, Madara kind of just, at that point, just gets overwhelmed and one-shotted. because Dark Phoenix in the comics is way too much for Madara to handle. So going on to that, speaking of the Dark Phoenix, that's going to be the round 2 of this video, is Jubidara, Ten Tails Madara versus Dark Phoenix. Now, 2 scenarios in this specific round. What the Dark Phoenix we saw in the movies, and then the comic book Dark Phoenix. I gotta be honest with you, if we're using the movie version of Dark Phoenix, I still think Ten Tails Madara is actually stronger, because
I honestly think Edo Madara is the least movie Dark Phoenix, because the only thing she does really is explode people with her telepathic powers. That's like the most impressive thing she can do.
Yeah.
And she, in the movie, in the last Dark Phoenix movie, she was actually able to react to Quicksilver, but it's not as though like reacting to somebody is enough to defeat them. She was able to defeat Quicksilver because he has the ability of a regular person.
Yeah.
Madara wouldn't be that way. She doesn't have a chance. Would she even be able to destroy Madara's body with her powers that are not even able to rip a helicopter apart in the movie? I don't think so. And if you take the last stand into account, she exploded Professor X and Cyclops, but I didn't do that to more powerful characters in terms of physical capabilities.
Well, another thing too that I was going to bring up, that too, because Madara at this point has regen. So, and it's pretty substantial regen, and as we saw in the last stand, Jean Grey, I don't really know Jean Grey was, it's kind of I think Jean Grey was trying to fight off the Dark Phoenix, but still, we saw that she wasn't really able to kill Logan because he kept regenerating way too fast. If we're assuming that this Madara's healing factor is either off, at bare minimum on par with Logan's healing factor, then I don't think even Jean Grey's ability to just disintegrate people is going to work on Madara. So, so movie Dark Phoenix, I think it's taken out relatively easy. Now, comic book Dark Phoenix, I feel like I get a lot of crap specifically if I didn't bring up comic book Dark Phoenix. Comic book Dark Phoenix is a little bit different, because I was going through her abilities in the comic books in the past couple of days, and I wanted to refresh and make sure that I don't know, man, Dark Phoenix ain't nothing to scoff at. I don't really know if I really want to give this to Madara or not. I know Madara is ridiculously strong. It'd be the case if we assume that Madara only had 1 Rinnegan, because I don't really know how strong he'd be with 2 Rinnegan. We didn't really see him fight with 2 Rinnegan, unfortunately.
I think the better abilities Madara would have against Dark Phoenix, comic book Dark Phoenix, that is, would be Limbo, because I don't think she would be able to see them still. She could tank the attacks, but they would still be helpfful. What's the name of that ability again in English? I forgot. The Lightning Fang, which is listed as light speed in the data books. Naruto was able to dodge it, but you can aim dodge things. That could be useful, and that cut for signals kind of easily. And then there's also Madara's Infinite Tsukuyomi. Would she be able to just shrug that off? Because it seems like nobody can shrug off unless you have Hagoromo's chakra in Sasuke's Rinnegan, for instance.
Yeah.
But she is really powerful. She's below planets and whatever. So
yeah,
it's a tough fight.
Let's take off a rundown of what she's the general consensus of what she's capable of. So obviously she has telekinesis, like we mentioned before. She's a telepath. She can fly at super speeds. I'm assuming it's either on par or if not faster than Quicksilver. Molecular reconstruction, meaning that she can just, heal herself, probably on the same level as someone like Wolverine, if not better. Concussive force blast, which is obviously just blunt force to the freaking body, whatever you want to call it. Energy absorption, kind of similar to the chakra absorption. Resurrection, which it's almost like a completely just healing yourself all over again. Expert with fire, and she's able to take over powerful beings' bodies as if it was her own. So, and then immortality. So it's just really, I don't know. It's funny because I look at and hear all the abilities that Madara has, and I hear all the stuff that Dark Phoenix has. I'm like, bro, this would be a match of freaking gods. I'm just trying to picture a fight between them. I don't really know, man. I think comic book Dark Phoenix just has a little bit too much that Madara wouldn't be able to. Honestly, I put Dark Phoenix in the same level as almost like Kaguya. Now, I did mention the Daigo. Here's the thing. Dark Phoenix has a couple of different adaptations of her in the comic books. One where she's kind of bat crazy, and the others, there are times where she's a lot more composed and is fully aware of her abilities and knows how to utilize them. So if she's in a moment where she's kind of going crazy and not really all there, I think Madara being obviously more, because he was even with the 10 tails inside of him, he was pretty composed. So he wasn't going crazy. He's fully aware of his abilities. He knows how to fight, and he's obviously really clever. So I think there's a chance that he might be able to possibly overcome Dark Phoenix, as he said, as Daigo said, with maybe the infinite Tsukuyomi could probably catch her off guard. Unless she just quickly takes over Madara's body as the jutsu is being launched in order to save herself. But if we're talking about like crazy Dark Phoenix, I don't know if she has that capability yet. So that could play into a factor. But if it's like the calm, composed, self-aware Dark Phoenix, I think that I think her arsenal is a little bit too much for even Ten Tails Madara to handle. Not to say that Madara doesn't give her a good fight, but I just think that just can't see that she can die. She's able to destroy planet level opponents. It's almost like she's like a Dragon Ball character, if I'm going to be honest with you. But that's what I think. Daigo, what you got?
It really boils down to how the abilities would interact, but depending on the rendition of Dark Phoenix that you talk about, some obviously are more powerful than others, some are ridiculously strong that could destroy entire multiverses and whatever, and that's obviously something that's beyond the power levels of the Naruto series, so there isn't even a chance any character in Naruto would even do anything against her.
Yeah,
but there are other renditions where she's not that powerful, so it really depends on the one you pick. But yeah, usually the consensus that the Dark Phoenix is one of the strongest entities / characters in Marvel, so really tough for Madara to deal with that if she's fighting with 100% strategic thought behind her actions.
Yeah, movie Dark Phoenix gets bodied slightly, crazy, cuckoo Dark Phoenix gets the 50-50. I can see it kind of going either way. I think Madara takes it, a little more often not if he's more strategic about the fight and can get Infinite Tsukuyomi launched on her in time, then he wins. But if it's composed Dark Phoenix, I think she bodies. So yeah, that's gonna do it for the Madara versus the X-Men. I hope this was a unique, fun little. I know that Madara may have been an unfair opponent for the X-Men, but I did think that altogether they are pretty powerful, and if they're able to stop an opponent like Apocalypse through some teamwork, I feel like maybe Madara could be a decent matchup for them. But no, I think Madara kind of takes them as Edo and Alive, but then loses to Dark Phoenix. So thank you, Daigo, for being on the channel with me. I appreciate this.
Thanks for having me.
If y'all want to see more content like this, just let me know in the comments. But be sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Be sure to subscribe to Daigo's channel if you haven't already either. Thank y'all for watching. I'll wait at the end if you have. And until the next one, LightningSnow out.